Hey, my name is Ilse Kunanino, and I wanted to start off by saying thank you for taking the time and sitting here today and listening to my presentation on the importance of Quality Improvement Program, or also known as QI. I believe that in order to make the best decision on Quality Improvement Program, we have to really understand what QI is and its pros and cons. So with that being said, we are moving on to our objectives. These are the things that we will be covering in our presentation today. One of those is understanding what QI is. Kind of reiterate what I've said in the first slide is in able to make the best decision, we really have to understand what quality improvement is itself to really make the best decision that we can make. We also will be going over why is it important. It's not only important for us to understand what QI is, but it also understand what benefits it brings to us. And that kind of brings us also on to our next point is the pros and cons to QI. So I will be laying out not only the benefits that it brings to having a QI in the clinic hospital, but it's also to know some of the risks that come with it or some of the cons that can possibly happen as well. I believe that you really need to see both sides to really understand. And I will also have a slide at the end for questions, but please feel free to interrupt me at any moment that you have any questions or something isn't making quite sense. I'm more than happy to clarify. Lastly, I will have a slide at the end of my presentation that has different references that I utilize to gather all of this information that backs up all of the stuff that I've talked to you here today. So what is quality improvement, or also known as QI? Well, I got this definition off of CMS.gov website, which I thought was a really good definition to kind of really give it to you guys very simple, but also understanding all of what quality improvement is. Quality improvement is the framework used to systematically improve care. Quality improvement seeks to standardize processes and structure to reduce variation, achieve predictable results, and improve outcomes for patients. Healthcare systems and organizations such as includes things like technology, culture, leadership, and physical capital. And I just thought that this was a really, really great definition to kind of give you guys that. And also, just something that I wanted to add on there is that quality improvement measures its progress so that it's easier to keep track of where you started or where you are currently at and how it is going, which I think is a great way. If you're going to put a program, it's always good to know where you're standing so that and where you want to be and what the progress is to really know that kind of what you need to do. So everybody might be asking themselves, well, why is QI so important? What's the benefits? So there are many reasons why QI is important, but I have laid out 4 of the ones that I believe connect more with this hospital. The first one is getting in front of a situation. What I mean by this is having a QI program in place, it will help the company see when something is about to happen and something is about to happen and come up with a plan. For example, if you're seeing a trend of long wait times and we know that this can cause patients to stop wanting to come to our hospital, then this helps us come up with a plan so that we can improve less wait times and patients continue to come and see us. Another would be patients will be satisfied that we are taking their complaints seriously, so more patients are satisfied with some of the results that they're seeing. QI can also help us keep track of who needs to be held accountable for certain things. If, let's say, there is a consistent data that shows that a specific physician is being rude to different patients, then this helps us know if this physician just needs more training on how to treat patients, or is it just more directly a direct conversation that needs to happen with that provider. And lastly, benefits. It benefits all around. So what I mean by this is that if more patients are happy, then they continue to come back. Patients then also spread the word and refer their friends, which will then bring more revenue, which benefits the hospital. So that's kind of that beneficial all around. It's a full circle. Okay, now on these next couple of slides, I will be going over techniques, and in each slide, I will talk about its pros, but also its cons of having quality improvement program. So that I have laid them out as technique 1 through 5. There'll be 5 different techniques. The first technique, or pro, is improving patient outcomes. Providers will be able to suggest screenings which could potentially help lower patient mortality rate. What I mean by this is that providers can really work with patients to suggest them the right treatment needed. So more patients are getting the right amount of treatment that they may need from because the providers are taking more in consideration having their patients' outcomes. However, one of the cons of the providers can be more focused on the patient's outcomes rather than. For example, if a provider is noticing that most of their patients that they are treating keep having bad outcomes or lower patient outcomes, then they will try to get better, but without regarding the patient's wishes, which can also be counterproductive. It can also take a lot of time and may not give all the accurate data. Because if providers want to better themselves, but to do this, if a patient doesn't want to go, let's say, they get pains in their joints and they want to do something more natural, but the provider's like, nope, we're going to do this because this is going to work, then they're disregarding in that. Also, that doesn't benefit the patient, so patients might not want to continue to come back. Our next one is technique number 2, or pro number 2, is lower expenses. Some of the pros is that it helps providers stop wasting money on the way that they are delivering care and use more efficiently resources, supplies, staff, time, and equipment. This also helps them get rid of unnecessary processes. So this helps us kind of look and see, well, you know what, this process isn't working. We need to do something a little bit different. So this helps us kind of pinpoint what we need to change. A con to this is that if there is no balance, then providers can overdo it. When it's not set with guidelines, for example, they cut things that are actually helpful to the company because they are trying to save time or money or resources. So it can kind of backfire if there isn't some straight guidelines or rules laid out. Third would be patient satisfaction surveys. So by providing patient satisfaction surveys, it will help give us a real life and accurate data of what each patient's experience was with not only the hospital or clinic, but also the provider that they saw. Your patients will be happier that they are being heard. So the fact that they're seeing that you're trying to act on trying to make a change on it, they will be a lot happier to see that. Some of the cons to that is that the patients may not want to fill out or be completely honest about it. Some patients may be worried that their providers will see these surveys and then receive bad or worse service from their provider. So, kind of worried that the next time they see a provider, the provider's going to confront them of why they wrote such a bad survey about them. So that kind of a thing. So sometimes it can backfire in not getting the accurate data if the patients aren't completely honest in the surveys. Our fourth is complying with regulations. So we're compliance with regulations. So that kind of helps us as a healthcare organization to keep up with at least the minimum requirement that we're required to have for standard of quality. This is a way that we can keep ourselves accountable on meeting those regulations. And some of the cons to that would be that it can cause providers to just focus on the minimum requirement rather than going above and beyond. So some providers might not want to go above and beyond because if this is the only thing that is an industry of healthcare, that's our minimum requirement, that's might be what they only want to provide is that minimal care. So that as well, sometimes it can backfire if policies that are put in place are not very straightforward. And our last one is improved communication. So by setting quality improvement, then it will normally call for also setting standard communication protocols that will help us better the relationship with providers, with patients, and even providers with the company itself. So, having more of that open communication, if they feel like we set a process for having those proper communications, and those providers might feel more comfortable coming up to their bosses or telling them something, you know what, I don't think this is working for us. I think we need to change this process. They'll feel comfortable enough to suggest those changes that can benefit the company, or even having that better communication between patients and providers, that can also help as well. The con is that the provider may not be too happy with the fact that they are used to doing things like they normally been until now, which can possibly cause some providers to want to go elsewhere due to the changes. So sometimes providers, if they've been doing this the way that they've been doing their process for the longest time, and then we come in and we change all of this, it might be hard for them, and it can backfire, because then they can decide, you know what, I don't want to be here because I don't like the change. So we just have to be very careful in the way that, if we decide to do this, to be careful in the way that we apply it in a very slow process, so that it doesn't overwhelm everybody. And lastly, our summary. So some of the stuff, just kind of the stuff that we went over today, we went over understanding what quality improvement is itself. We also talked about the importance of really having QI in this company and its benefits. I think, yeah, there are some risks and there are some stuff, but I think there's also a lot of benefits, and I think the benefits overdo what the cons are, and I think this would be a great thing to have into the company. And lastly, kind of reiterate, and I talked about the pros and the cons, and just in general what quality improvement is. I think I can't reiterate how important this is to have it, and really be part of this company and having it. I think it will make a huge change in the good way. It's not something that you'll see results right away tomorrow, but it is things that you will definitely see it in the long run. Lastly, this is our references, all the references of the places that I utilize to get all of this information. So I'm happy to share if anyone is interested, and any questions, concerns, or anything that isn't making quite sense, something that I need to kind of further out, explain, please feel free to let me know. Okay, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time again, for sitting here and listening. I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thanks.